everybody. So we're so excited today that we are here to do the second part in our uh, winter movie recap. We're talking about the indie movies and streaming movies from 2018, November, December, and then January 2019. So this could be really fun. I'm also going to be doing a quick Sundance recap at the end. That will be a lot of fun. And I'm Rachel, and I'm joined here by David.
Hey, I am here again. Thanks for having me.
Yes, thanks for coming. This is always so much fun. And I was very engulfed by Christmas movies. So there's a bunch of these I haven't seen.
Right.
But like I said, I will talk about the ultimate in indies, talk about Sundance, which was really great this year. So let's just dive in and get started. So first we had A Private War, and you got to see this?
I did see this. Yeah, so this is about a real life reporter who reports from all these different wars. And there's not a lot that I can say about this because it isn't a movie that left a strong impression on me. I thought it was well done. There was like an emotional part near the end. But other than that, I didn't think it was the strongest of this type of film. So yeah, it didn't leave a lasting impression. I put this at 151 for the year,
And
out
how
of
many
200.
total?
Yeah, out of 226 movies for
Okay.
2018.
Okay, great. Okay, and then Boy Erased, which I just haven't had a chance to see it yet, which I really want to see it. What did you
So
think?
yeah, this is actually a very, very strong film for me. And it's interesting because I got to watch this film. It's about Lucas Hedges' character is forced to go to gay conversion therapy by his parents. His dad's a pastor. But I got to watch this at my local art house theater with the mother from the film, the real life mother from this film. So that was a very cool experience, and it was a pretty intimate setting. There was maybe 25 people in the theater, and she did a Q&A afterwards. So I may sound biased just because I got to talk to her. I got to ask her questions. I got to hug her. She was super sweet. But the movie by
And she
itself,
liked the movie as far as
she
it
did. Yeah, this was
trail.
her. Yeah, this was her third time watching it, and it's based on a book that her son wrote. But yeah, she really enjoyed it. Her husband has not seen the film. He definitely doesn't have the same position as she does. So it was interesting to learn about that, the kind of behind the scenes. But yeah, this is a great movie. I think it's kind of robbed during this award season. I thought Nicole Kidman was very, very good. Like, if I had to pick a best supporting actress from this year, I'd probably give it to Nicole Kidman for her portrayal in Boy Erased. This movie made me have a lot of feelings. It did its job perfectly, I thought. So I couldn't recommend this film anymore. It's the second of this kind that I've seen. There was The Miseducation of Cameron Post, which we both watched, and we both enjoyed that. I think this is a lot better, actually. So I put this at number 10 for the year.
I will watch it. I'll let you know what I think.
Good.
Yeah, I've heard nothing but good things about it, so I'm excited to see it. So then you saw Maria by Callas?
Yes, this is a documentary about an opera singer, and I remember watching the trailer in a movie theater once, and I was just mesmerized. Like, I thought this woman, she was a very famous opera singer in
Maria Callas, isn't that her
yeah,
name?
yeah. She was a famous opera singer in the 50s, 60s, around that time. And they just made it look like she was such a diva, yet so talented. Watching the movie, I didn't think it was as compelling of a story as I expected. she really was a pretty normal woman. She had a lot of interesting things going on in her life, but the highlights of the film were actually the times that it would stop for a good 3 or 4 minutes and just show us one of her performances. It was very, very beautiful,
Mm-hmm.
the way she sang. And I'm not a big opera person, but that was very impressive. I
Mm-hmm.
liked it. I didn't felt like it had a driving plot, so that made it suffer a little bit. So I ranked this at 180 for the year, but it's still very good.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Okay. Then we have the holiday calendar. And this is one of the Christmas movies we can actually talk about. That I thought that this was sweet enough. It's not like one of my favorites of the year, but that was kind of magic calendar. I don't think they did quite enough with the calendar. It kind of got forgotten about halfway through the movie, but I really liked the lead guy. I'd never seen him in anything before, but I thought he was pretty charismatic and charming and just a little bit different than you typically see in these kind of movies. Um, I I thought that she was a little too unlikable for too long. They needed her sort of conversion to Christmas a little bit sooner, I think. It just kind of was like, why is this guy even interested in her? She's being a jerk. But nevertheless, I still thought it was cute enough. I enjoyed it. I don't know. What did you think?
I haven't seen this one.
Oh, you didn't see it. Okay.
Nope.
Uh, I have it at number 100 in my ranking.
Okay.
So, all right. So, At Eternity's Gate. That's the Vincent Van Gogh movie, right?
It is, yeah. So Willem Dafoe plays Vincent Van Gogh in this, and he did a great job. This is a very interesting film. It's very artistic. It's got a lot of extreme close-ups. Um, I think this is a much better film than Loving Vincent, which
Uh huh.
I thought was pretty boring, actually.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, you get to see a lot into his character with this film. Loving Vincent was more of trying to discover what happened to him after his death,
Hmm.
but this is actually during his life. So yeah, I think this is a very strong film. Um, there were times that I did get a little bit bored, just because it's a little slower paced. But yeah, it's still high quality. I ranked this at 129 for the year.
Okay, good. All right. Yeah, it was weird. Our local art house, I had thought about seeing it, and then it had mismarketed that it was 3 hours long, and I was like,
Oh,
"Ooh, 3 hours long!" But it turned out that was wrong,
right.
and
No,
so
it's
I
not
went
that.
and saw something else instead. And I can't remember what that was, but anyway, it's just like they had a. I guess it's just
Maybe
2 hours long.
maybe
But
they were putting how long Loving Vincent felt.
yeah, maybe. It was a dual screening. No. So you saw Fathers and Sons?
I did. I actually just watched this right before we started podcasting today. Um, this is nominated for Best Documentary at the Oscars this year, and I'm doing my best to watch as many Oscar nominated films as I can, and
Uh
I'm
huh.
getting very, very close. I think I have 14 shorts to watch and 3 films to watch, and then I will have
Nice.
seen everything that's nominated.
That's really
Um,
cool.
yeah, this was actually a very interesting movie. I didn't know anything about it going into it, uh, but somehow this filmmaker was able to gain the trust of um, this jihadist, um, and spend a lot of time with him and his 4 sons, who he is raising up to be part of the Taliban, uh, to be in the jihad. And it was very crazy that I could watch that just unfold, and it's something I never would have expected a documentary maker could get away with. And it's very heartbreaking watching like this extremely radicalized man who hates um, anybody who doesn't think like him, hates Americans, and he's got these innocent kids who range from probably about 6 to 13, and they just want to be kids, and he is just forcing these extreme beliefs on them. They want to be kids, but they have to actually go to this. It shows the two older ones. They go to this training at 12 and 13. They're learning to shoot guns. And it's just heartbreaking to watch, but it was very well made. Um, it's it's not super entertaining from that disposable perspective. Like it's very informative, I would say. So I don't know that it's a fun watch, but I think it's something that everybody should check out. And it's hard to rank after just watching it, but
Yeah.
I did put it at 158 just based on the fact that there's a lot more entertaining movies I've seen in 2018. But if I were trying to be more objective, I'd have this a lot higher.
Interesting. Okay, good. All right. And then what is Cam? I don't even know that.
Yeah, Cam is actually a Netflix film that came out in November, and it is about a webcam girl. I'm not sure if you know what that is, but basically it's somebody who gets undressed, and
like
maybe not even fully, but yeah, to make money online. But it's actually a really clever horror film about this girl who's a webcam girl, and she has one of her customers. She starts getting weird messages from him, and it just takes a bizarre turn. I don't want to give anything away. It has a little bit of nudity. It's not too inappropriate, so I feel like this is something that a lot of people could watch. If you're like very conservative with what you like to watch, then probably stay away from this. But it's very well made. I think it's in the 90s on Rotten Tomatoes. It's I think it's one of the better Netflix originals I've seen, and it's kind of a shame that it went under the radar for a lot of people while everybody's talking about Bird Box.
Yeah,
but,
interesting.
Yeah, I'd recommend it.
Where do you have it ranked?
Oh, I have this at 63 for the year.
Okay, cool. Good. All right. Then we had the Ballad of Buster Scruggs. And so this is our Western themed shorts from the Coen brothers. And the Coen brothers haven't made a comedy that I've liked in a long time. And I particularly didn't like Hail Caesar. I felt like it was just sort of I feel like what they've been doing in some of their recent movies is paying homage to certain styles and genres, but not like having a good story to go along with all of that pretty, looking stuff. And these were, I thought, for the most part, very forgettable. I'm not going to remember any of them, I think, going forward. I thought that the best one was the one about the girl falling in love with that guy. I thought that was sweet. They were fine. I didn't hate it, but I was way more irritated with Hail Caesar just because I thought it was like things like that submarine thing was so boring to me and frustrating. And they were fine, but I just thought they were very forgettable. They looked nice, but I didn't think any of them were funny. Personally, yeah, no, it was not funny. And so I have it 121. I wasn't thrilled with them.
So maybe I'm biased. I love the Coen brothers. They're my favorite directors. I mean, I like all of their movies that I've seen, but this one, when I first watched it, I didn't know how to process it because you got 5 different stories going on, and I like them to varying levels. I actually thought the first one was the best. I can never remember his name. He's in a lot of their movies, but
yeah,
it's kind of like a musical. But as a whole, and after watching it a second time, I really enjoyed this a lot. I mean, I thought each story was compelling in its own right. I liked the casting. I liked the art direction, I guess. I liked some of the twists that it had. I thought it was very entertaining, and
Hmm.
I had one of my friends watch it with me the second time, and he really enjoyed it as well. So, yeah, I'm very happy. It's I think it's got 3 Oscar nominations. Um,
Yes, including that song. It's just like, oh, that's what's going
I
on.
love that song.
Oh my gosh, one of the best. It was one of the best years for music in film.
Oh, you're a
And
hater,
so,
Rachel.
no, it was not that great of a song. And I mean, when I
It's
think of
fun.
like their early comedies, like Raising Arizona, I am in stitches watching that
Right.
movie. That movie is so memorable and so funny. And it's not just about, these rednecks. It's actually like, it's more than just the sort of the set pieces. It's more than just the it's so the script is so funny, and Brother Where Art Thou, so funny, and I don't think that they have made anything even close to that for so long. But that's just I think Fargo is not just this like cute Midwestern setting. It's a good story and it's a good script with really likable characters. That like Margie is such a great character, and I don't know, I just don't think that they've come close to anything like that in so long. And it's frustrating to me because I feel like they have these good ingredients, but then it's just not. I don't know.
Well, I mean, the standard is very high for them. So you're talking about what I would consider some of the best films ever, honestly, like
Yeah, I guess that's
especially talking
fair.
about Fargo. But I still thought it was very good, and it wasn't all meant to be funny. There were some, and I like that it had different tones for different stories in this. But yeah, I liked it a lot as a whole, and I ranked this at number 36 for the
Very good. Cool. Good. All right. So then we had the Clove Hitch Killer.
year.
Doesn't
Yeah.
sound like my cup of tea.
It's actually
Is it?
not that bad.
Oh, okay.
It's yeah, it's I was mainly interested in this when I found out it had Charlie Plummer because
Mm.
I think he's someone to watch. So he's the lead character in this, and it's about him. His town famously has this serial killer from I think it was from before he was born, and that serial killer would like tie people up with a clove hitch knot. Um, but there's reason to believe that that serial killer is active again. It's a lot like what was it? Summer of '83? Was that what? '93?
Oh, Summer of
Oh,
'84. The
'84. Yes. Um,
the horror one.
yes. It's a lot like that, except I think this is a lot better. Personally, it is kind of slow. I didn't get into the main plot point is that Charlie Plummer suspects that his dad may be this serial killer. But yeah, it definitely kept my attention. It has its slow points. It definitely feels like a small screen movie, which I'm sure that's why it was a streaming film and it wasn't released theatrically, at least not that I know of. But I think it's enjoyable enough. I put this at 127 for the year.
Okay, good. All right. Then we had The Front Runner. I just watched this last night, actually,
Oh,
and I really enjoyed it. I thought it
hmm,
was really solid. I mean, I like Jason Reitman's movies for the most part, but I thought that especially sort of the parts involving the press and sort of their, for a long time they had just any kind of extramarital stuff they just kind of not reported about because
hmm,
it wasn't considered appropriate. When they're talking there about Kennedy and how they just not reported a lot of that kind of stuff, and then how they're sort of transition because of this scary heart thing, their transition to covering it and how that changed everything in the way that the press has worked since. Thought that was all really good. And where it doesn't work quite as well is kind of the way that they decided to portray Gary Hart as kind of this victim of the process, where he was not a victim. It's his fault. If he didn't want to have this problem, then he should have been faithful to his wife and not done this. He is, I just felt like they were kind of trying to portray him, and he was trying to portray him as this sort of, oh, woe is me, kind of thing, where I was like, not so much. But I thought it was way better than I was expecting, that's for sure. So
Okay.
yeah.
So I actually disagree with you about their portrayal of Gary Hart. I thought that they presented him in a very fair, unbiased light.
Uh-huh.
It didn't feel like they were telling you how to think about him. I felt like they were leaving that up to you. Like, here's what he did. Here's the reaction of the press. Now, what do you think? Do you think he deserved it? Do you think he didn't? It really felt like they laid that burden on the audience, personally.
Well, I mean, it was just like his sort of portrayal of like, I just felt like they were kind of portraying him as like the press should have just left him alone, and this was just that he had all these good ideas and therefore he shouldn't have been treated like this.
Yeah, I did not get that impression.
Yeah. He was a little whiny to me.
He was, which would be like, you would expect that. I mean, that's his own defense of himself. I thought they kind of made him look like a bad guy at times. Uh-huh. I thought they were fair with him, honestly. And yeah, I did like that part of it, that they didn't seem to take a firm position on either side of it. They just presented a story to you. But that's how I took it.
Uh-huh.
Overall, it didn't leave a strong impression on me. I forgot most of it after seeing it. So I put this at 138. It's good from what I remember, but not super memorable.
I have it as 51.
Okay.
It's definitely trying to do like Aaron Sorkin light.
Right.
For sure. But I don't know. It was better than I expected. So maybe it's partly the expectations. So anyway, so then next was the Christmas Chronicles. This was on Netflix. And this was really fun. This is Kurt Russell playing this kind of kick butt version of Santa Claus. And you've got these two teens that end up getting stowed away in his sleigh, and they go on this kind of adventure together. And I really enjoyed it. I thought it was really fun. And I thought Kurt Russell was having a great time. And I liked the little elves. They were really cute and evil at the same time, which was fun. Kind of had a Gremlins sort of feel to it. I enjoyed that. It felt sort of old school. And the only thing I didn't really like is I thought the hoodlums who are kind of out to get them were a little too mean for this kind of movie. Like, if I had kids, I'd be a little bit concerned about that. Also, I thought maybe the Jailhouse Rock parts kind of were a little too long. Maybe could have been shortened a little bit, but overall, I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I didn't see this one, so.
Oh yeah, this one was fun. I have it at 45 in my rating.
Okay.
So I'd recommend it.
Cool.
So next is Shoplifters. I was actually really excited for this movie because I love the director, Hirokazu Korida. I think he makes movies with such humanity for his characters, and I just love his movies, and I was really looking forward to this. It got rave reviews from cons and won big prizes, and I ended up really loving it. I thought it was a wonderful movie. It kind of feels like there was something kind of Dickensian for me about it. It was almost like this new Oliver Twist. And what I liked is you have this group that is a family and that loves each other, and that is not supposed to, like, we all know that they should be together and that they should be allowed to love each other, but they're, they're not supposed to as far as the law is concerned. So you have this kind of natural order of things versus what is legal and right as far as the law. And so there's that dynamic. And I thought, I don't know, I thought all the performances were great. The two little kids are so cute, adorable. And it was one of my favorites of the year. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I just watched this one less than a week ago, so it finally came to my town. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. I mean, it's been a very strong year for foreign films, and I think this is one of the stronger ones I've seen.
Yeah.
It definitely likes the plot, the story, the family dynamics. It slowly unravels, which I appreciated. I kept learning more as I went along, and a lot of it surprised me. Whenever you figure out everything that's gone on, beautiful cinematography in this too. Very heartfelt. I really enjoyed this.
Oh, cool! I wasn't sure if you'd like it because it's kind of slice of life, and you're more mixed on that than I sometimes joke that I think Kurita is the Richard Linklater of Japan. So I wasn't sure if you would like it. But I don't know. I'm glad to hear that you connected with it, because I think that's the key, is you sort of connect emotionally with these characters and then go on the story with them. And particularly when they are being interrogated, I don't know, I thought it was really moving and kind of tragic, and it's great. I have it at number 8.
Okay, I have it at 69.
Very good. Okay. All right, so then we have The Favorite. This is Oscar nominated film. This is, what's it, Yorgos
Lanthimos.
Lanthimos, yeah. And this is a comedy about Queen Anne and her I don't know what you call them, but her
assistant.
I don't know what you call them, but anyway, you have Emma Stone and Rachel Weisz supporting Queen Anne, played by Olivia Colman. And I thought this movie was it was honestly better than I expected, because I was not a big fan of The Lobster. And but I do feel like his films are kind of top heavy. They start out with interesting ideas and then they kind of lose steam by the end. But I thought this one did better about that, much better than The Lobster. This movie was really funny, I think, especially the first like 45 minutes, I think, were very funny. And then it starts to get a little repetitive with things. But, the performances are great. And overall, I enjoyed it. I thought it was an entertaining movie.
Okay. Yeah, so this is called The Favorite, and out of all the movies that we are discussing on both of these podcasts, this is my favorite.
Oh, okay.
Yes,
good.
I love this movie. I had high expectations, which can be dangerous for me, but it did not disappoint at all. This is one of those films that as soon as I saw it, I could have turned right back around and walked into the theater and watched it again. I have seen it twice. I watched it fairly soon after the first time I saw it. But yeah, it was hilarious for me. I really liked the performances. I was not familiar with Olivia Colman, but she was so good in this.
Yeah, she's great.
Everything in her face, her eyes, all the subtleties, she nailed it. Like, I would love to see her win the Oscar. I know she won't, but I thought she did a great job, and I've really enjoyed seeing this get the love that it deserves as far as nominations. Like, if you look at all the various awards beyond just the Oscars, it's the movie that's been getting the most nominations overall. So I'm very pleased with that. I couldn't recommend this anymore. It's great. I love it.
Cool. Yeah. I have it at 60.
Okay.
So I did enjoy it.
Yeah. I have it at number 4.
All right. Very good. Okay. So what do you have it? What's your number 1 of the year?
Hereditary is my number one
Oh,
of the
number one
of the
still.
year.
Very good.
Speaking of Best Actress, Toni Collette was robbed.
Yeah, yeah, I've heard that.
Yep.
So then we had Mirai, and this was I was really looking forward to this because Mamoru Hosoda is a wonderful director. He's all of his movies have been really good, and I. It was interesting because his movies have been really sci-fi, and there's a mild sci-fi, I guess, in here. It's kind of almost like a Christmas Carol in a way, like all these, this little kid can't get along with his new sister, and so he's visited by all these kind of basically spirits, to tell him how to behave and what he should do, and including, it shouldn't be called Mirai because that's just one of the sort of spirits. It should be
Right.
called Kin, the little boy. But anyway, I thought this was really charming. It was very sweet. And it's smaller in feel and tone than his other movies. Like his other movies are kind of bigger sci-fi stories. So that was enjoyable. I thought it had some funny parts. I liked the fact that, kind of it's the dad who's sort of trying to take care of this child and this new baby. And I thought, sort of a theme of this year, with Mr. Incredible and now with this and some
Hmm.
other stuff. It was like a year for, I guess, maybe even Hotel Transylvania 3 in a way. It's like the year for animated dads. And this was sweet, and I thought it was beautifully animated, and I was so excited to see it get nominated for Best Animated Film because it's the first non-Studio Ghibli anime film to get nominated, because Your Name wasn't nominated and Silent Voice wasn't nominated, and I think those were very worthy. So anyway, I enjoyed it. I thought it was good.
Yeah. So anime is not my specialty, and I'm not particularly fond of anime.
Uh-huh.
Um, but yeah, this was actually a very creative film. I like the concept. I can see the Christmas Carol idea
Mm-hmm.
there. Um, Visually, I just don't like animation. It doesn't work for me.
Mm-hmm.
So that that was something kind of holding me back from really enjoying this film.
Uh-huh.
Uh, I just I just don't like how they draw their characters. It's very, very basic and outdated for me. I know a lot of people love it, and I'm probably gonna get hate mail, but
Now I can understand. I actually think there can be quite variety in anime,
okay,
but in the some of, with sort of the classic kind of look. I get it that there's sort of an overall style, and people have just different tastes in art. But I appreciate that you still found things you liked about it.
yeah,
Yeah, so I have it at 19.
okay. I have it at 169. So,
Okay.
and I still like appreciated it for
Yeah.
what it was. Just
Good.
not personally my cup of tea. I think it's one of the most original animated films I've seen in the past year.
Yeah, there you go. Very good. Okay. So then then Anna and the Apocalypse is our next up. And this was a movie that I was very much looking forward to. It's just, I love Christmas movies. I love musicals. And you got this zombie component, and I ended up really loving it. I thought it was really just creative and exuberant, and I just smiled throughout. I liked all of the songs, particularly the Hollywood ending sequence. I thought was really fun. I really liked the Another Day in My Life sequence where she's walking to school and the zombie apocalypse is happening all around her, but she's just caught up in her own world and own life. I thought that was really great. And I thought that some of the zombieifying was very surprising. There were people that got turned into zombies that I did not expect. That I don't want to give spoilers, but I was like, whoa, I was not expecting that person to go. And I don't know, I thought that it was just energetic and joyful, and I really enjoyed it. So there you go.
Okay, so I feel bad for doing this, but I'm gonna I'm gonna kind of tear this movie apart.
Okay.
um, I think it doesn't really work on its own as a zombie film. It doesn't work on its own as a musical. It doesn't work on its own as a Christmas film. The sum of its parts, it kind of works. Like it's creative if you add those elements together. But yeah, I think it felt like it was wasted potential. I didn't really care for the music. I thought it seemed very, very basic and like something I've heard a million times in like the cheapest musicals. And that's honestly, a lot of it just felt really cheap to me. It felt like maybe something that any amateur could have written. And I'm making it sound like I really hate it, but I don't hate it. I just was disappointed by it. I wish it could have been a lot better. Even the villain, I really thought he was too much of a cartoon character. But with that said, I still put it at 104, and that's because those elements combined kind of worked.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, it's just different tastes in music and things like that. That's fine.
Yeah.
I know. I thought that the I did think that the villain, as far as the principal, was over the top and a little grating. So that was my least favorite part of the movie. But I actually thought that her, sort of the jock guy, her ex, was actually a pretty decent character. I liked, because you're expecting him to just be completely one note, but like him having to like kill his father and I don't know, I thought that was actually pretty good, and I just really enjoyed it. So what can I say? I thought
that's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
And there were some unpredictable elements, which I appreciated.
Mm-hmm.
Especially like at least one of the characters I did not expect to die when they did.
Yeah.
So
yeah. So I have it at number 9.
Okay.
It was one of my favorites of the year. It's just one I'm definitely I think it totally feels like the kind of thing that'll be a cult classic that people will watch every year for Christmas.
I can see that.
And I think that's going to be one for me that I think I'm going to watch. And I did have a really memorable podcast with Sean Chandler where we talked all about it, talked about Gremlins. And I think it has some of that kind of feel of Gremlins for me, that kind of that kind of mixture of sort of horror with Christmas, with comedy that you get in something like Gremlins. And so it was really memorable for me. But I can understand it wouldn't be for everybody. So, all right. Then you saw All the Creatures Were Stirring.
Yes, so this is kind of a horror anthology Christmas movie. And I knew it had, I can't remember her name, the lead in Crazy Rich Asians. I knew she was in this, so that kind of made me curious about this. Overall, it was kind of disappointing. I don't think many of the stories within this, like really, I don't even know how to describe it. None of them were super compelling. There were some funny elements, like the vengeful Rudolph story, where a guy hits a deer with his car, and you find out that it's one of Santa's reindeer. So he's being stalked by this bright red light behind him, and eventually Rudolph comes to his house and gets revenge. So it was interesting.
Sounds fun.
Yeah, I think you would like it.
Yeah.
It certainly isn't. It does have that horror element to it, but it's not too scary. It's not gory. So you might want to check it out. It felt very amateur though. The production, camera quality, it felt definitely like it didn't have any sort of.
Was this released just straight to streaming or?
Yes. Yeah. So I'm sure you can find it, since you're probably needing more Christmas movies to watch, right?
That's right. I thought I got them all. No, I haven't.
Nope.
No. I even watched Santa Jaws, which was actually surprisingly fun. Yeah.
So I actually have this ranked pretty low. I don't hate it though, but I have it at 200.
Okay, good. All right. What's Tyrell? I haven't heard of that.
Tyrell is an interesting movie. It's another one of those race relation movies that we've been getting lately. This one's interesting because it is about a party, and there is a black character named Tyler who's invited to this party, where he's the only African American. Everybody else is white, and he he's I think it's supposed to be pointing out like sort of microaggressions, micro racism, or at least the perception of it from his point of view. Like somebody mistakenly calls him Tyrell when his name's Tyler. Um, and you just see like slowly he gets more and more uncomfortable with how these other guys are acting. From
Mhm.
my perspective, I'm watching and I'm like, they're not doing anything wrong. You don't need to feel uncomfortable. They're not being racist towards you. They're just being themselves. And I had to really like check myself and be like, just because that's my perspective doesn't mean that he has that same perspective. It's a pretty interesting
Hmm.
movie to watch as far as just, I don't know, just seeing other perspectives. Um, but yeah, it was pretty good. It's not something I'd watch again, probably. I have it at 157 for the year.
Okay. And then Ben is back. You saw?
Yeah, Ben is back. So it seems like we're getting a lot of movies in twos that are similar. So we had Beautiful Boy, and then we have Ben is Back, which is another movie about a young person who's struggling with addiction to drugs and the parents' response to it. This time we have Julia Roberts as the parent, and Lucas Hedges is her son, who's
It's
going
just
through
like
this.
he and Timothy Chalamet, just like they go to the auditions. They're just like, you take this one, I'll take the
Yes,
next one.
exactly. Yeah, but I thought this was a really good movie. It's very different from Beautiful Boy. This is more of a contained story, like over a period of 1 or 2 days, I think. Um, Basically, like Julia Roberts and her son have an awful night dealing with the demons that Lucas Hedges' character has, and having to deal with other people in town. You slowly learn more and more things about his character, what he's done. Um, his mom's getting more and more horrified by it. It's very emotional, very well acted, and it's a shame it kind of went under the radar. I think it's, as a whole, I think I like it better than Beautiful Boy. Um, I put this at 55 for the year. I would recommend it.
Cool, good. And then you saw Dumplin'.
Yes, Dumplin' was another Netflix film.
It
It is
looks
about,
terrible. I just was not. I don't know.
yeah. I thought it looked better than it was, to be honest. So it's about this mother who, she was a Jennifer Aniston. She had been a beauty pageant queen, and it's about her plus size daughter, and just kind of the disconnect between them. I don't think it has a great message. It's very superficial. Um, Seeing kind of the progression of Jennifer Aniston's character, it doesn't endear me to her at all. Um, Seeing them reconnect, it felt very like shallow, and I didn't think it was great. I liked the music. I liked, there's a bit of Dolly in there, Dolly Parton. So I appreciate that because I like Dolly. Who doesn't like Dolly, right?
Yeah, for real.
But overall, it wasn't very funny. It wasn't very dramatic. It was just kind of there. I put it at 160 for the year.
Okay. All right. Now, finally, one that actually I have a bunch in a row now that I've seen. This is
Okay.
good. Okay. So, Mary Queen of Scots. And so, this is a very ridiculous version of Mary Queen of Scott and Queen Elizabeth as far as historical accuracy. It's very, I think this is very similar to something like The Other Boleyn Girl, as far as historical accuracy. But I still actually really enjoyed it. I thought it was, I don't know, I felt like got that sort of balance. Maybe it's not as good as, maybe people don't like it as much as The Favorite, as far as outright laughter, but I was really entertained by it. I thought it was just kind of, I don't know, I like sort of period pieces that have a little tiny bit of camp. And I liked both of the leads. I mean, towards the end, you have this ridiculous scene with Elizabeth and Mary meeting face to face in this, like, in this barn or whatever. It was ridiculous, but I don't know. I just still enjoyed it for whatever reason. Maybe I was just in the right
Yeah.
mood. I liked it.
Yeah, it's interesting because that's the only scene they're together in the whole film.
And they never met in real life, of course.
Right.
That is ridiculous, but
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I thought this movie was going to be very boring, very, like, I don't know, the worst kind of this kind of film. It was actually better than I expected. I was entertained. I liked some of the side stories. I thought were the most interesting part, like the stuff going on with her gay friend.
Yeah.
And yeah, I thought it was pretty good for what it was. I mean, it's not a standout film. I'm satisfied that it's been overlooked for this award season. I don't think it's quite to that caliber, but for what it is, it's not bad at all. So
Well, I mean, costume and makeup, it deserved for sure. So
yeah,
I think. I have it at 62. I thought it was fun. I enjoyed it.
I have it at 99.
Okay, good. All right, and then we have Mowgli, Legend of the Jungle, and this was Andy Serkis's version of the Jungle Book, and yeah, it was not great. I just watched this week as well, and they caught up with it, and it was very forgettable. I thought it was pretty boring. They just didn't do anything interesting with any of the characters. They tried to take it on this darker path than the Jon Favreau version, but I don't know. It was just a lot of characters talking and just not anything that was memorable or interesting or that I really liked. Yeah, it wasn't very good.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it is that it suffers in comparison to the version we got in 2016. You know, like, have you ever seen on YouTube where they like have videos where somebody takes like a VHS recording and they record it onto a different VHS and then they recorded that same one
Oh, yeah.
and it just kind of diminishes. That's kind of what we got here. Like, it's
yeah, the visuals weren't nearly as good.
oh no, they weren't. And honestly, like, this movie traumatized me, but not in a good way. They do something with a character that I thought was very, very upsetting and very, very cheap to do that. Like,
yeah, and just very, like, brushed aside. It's not even given like emotional weight of, like, boom, here's this huge thing. It's kind of, and yet, so we're, like, traumatized as an audience, but, like, the movie doesn't deal with that trauma in any kind of interesting way, if that makes sense.
And it doesn't earn it. Like,
no,
it didn't deserve to have that moment. And I don't know, that alone is enough for me to tell people, don't watch this, because they pull this stunt on you and it's crappy, and it made me really angry at this movie.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah, it was very cheap. I agree with you as far as that moment for sure. I have it 131.
Okay, I have it at 165.
Okay, yeah. It was definitely disappointing, and I understand why they did not release it into theaters for sure.
Yes.
That was a good, smart move. All right. Then we had Once Upon a Deadpool. And so I have never seen a Deadpool movie before. So I thought I was the perfect kind of test case to see this film. because they're trying to do a PG-13 version of Deadpool, which I think is kind of an interesting thought experiment to kind of do. But I really didn't like it, like at all.
Oh.
I liked some of the, I guess there were a few good jokes between Fred Savage and Deadpool, but I don't know if I would just not like Deadpool at all. But I thought that I didn't think it was funny, and I thought that the action was really not that great, and I thought that the kid from Hunt for the Wilder People was really bad, and like that was, I don't know, I was really underwhelmed, and I didn't really like it.
Oh, well, that's too bad. I mean, I can't say anything because I haven't seen this version.
Mm-hmm.
But I did like Deadpool 2. So I'm kind of curious. I mean, this is kind of weird because we both have seen one
Yeah,
version,
I
so we
know.
can't really compare, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Did you like that X-Force scene with them jumping out of the plane?
I guess, I don't know. I
Oh, I
didn't.
love that part.
I didn't think it was. I don't know. It was just. I don't know. I didn't love it. It was just not my style humor, I guess.
Okay, that's fair.
Um, and yeah, I'm trying to think of. I mean, the Fred Savage stuff actually was probably the part that made me laugh. Actually, laugh. But most
Yeah.
of the stuff, I was just kind of like, eh.
Which
No, it's just not my style humor.
the
Um,
Fred Savage stuff is all just in
for
Once
the
Upon a Dead.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's right. And
To be fair, it does have much worse reviews than Deadpool 2 does. So
yeah.
maybe it really just doesn't work taking out that R-rated material. I don't know.
And they did give, I think, at least a portion or a bunch. It was actually for charity, so that was how they kind of were able to sort of explain away the cat. Like it's not as much a cash grab as it might otherwise have been.
Hmm.
But anyway, I added a number 139. I didn't enjoy it. I was disappointed. So, all right. Then we had Bird Box, and this was on Netflix, and I actually read the book, and I really enjoyed the book. The book was very good at building tension, and the movie was disappointing. I thought that particularly anything in the house, because in the house in the book they have uh Tom and Gary have like very different sort of philosophies on how to live, and like, and they spend all this time together, and so it builds tension, builds tension, and it was so much better. I thought a lot of the stuff was sort of weirdly played for laughs in the house, which I didn't like. And that whole scene where they're driving was so lame, and I didn't like it. Whereas like in the book, they're going house to house to get food, and that's way more like understandable and believable and way more tense because there's all these like, I don't know, it was just so ridiculous, this driving. And but the part I liked was I liked I thought they did the river part pretty good. I thought Sandra Bullock
Hmm.
was good. Her and the kids in the river, those scenes I thought were pretty good, pretty true to the book and pretty good, and I liked that. But overall, I was disappointed in the film.
Yeah. So yeah, I thought this movie was fine. I watched it. It didn't. It, I thought I thought it was fine. But what kind of annoyed me was seeing social media and how this just became a phenomenon.
Mm-hmm.
And literally everybody was talking about this movie. And I wanted to be like, hey, wait, guys, there's so many other better movies you all could be talking about. If
Right.
you want a movie like this, go see A Quiet Place. Like, that's a great film.
Mm-hmm.
And it just was very frustrating to see kind of mediocre, slightly better than mediocre film just like
Mm-hmm.
become such a huge thing. Netflix, I believe they said that 40 million accounts watched this film, and it's in the first week.
Yeah,
That
it's weird. I was so immersed in Christmas, I kind of missed a lot of that hype and that thing. But yeah, it's a shame too because a lot of people are like, oh, they just stole the idea from Quiet Place, but that's
Oh,
not true. Like the book had been
right.
around long before A Quiet Place. But I would just encourage people to actually, if you liked it, actually read. I would recommend reading the book. The book was
Hmm.
definitely better. I don't know anyone that thinks the movie was better than the book in this case. So
Right.
if you liked it, or even if you thought it had potential, check out the book. It was a good read. And so anyway, I have it at 119.
Okay. We have it pretty close, and I have it at 123.
Okay. Yeah. It's just like things like in the book, like the lead up to her sister, uh, to her sister's death, like that was so like chilling and tense. And in like the
Yep.
movie, she like stands in front of a bus. Like it just wasn't as good. So I don't know. Frustrating. So all right. Then we have If Beale Street Could Talk. And here is you didn't like any of the apocalypse. Here's my unpopular opinion. So this movie I found immensely irritating to watch. I was very annoyed the whole time. It felt like watching a play, but a not great play, but with really good actors in the play. And I just felt like nobody was talking like a human being. It felt very staged, and I guess that's part of the point, but I found it very annoying. I didn't feel like I got to know these characters very well at all. Like they just spend a lot of time like staring at each other, and we see images of them as babies and stuff, but like I want to know more about them and what makes them tick and what makes them unique. And I don't know, I was very irritated watching this movie. It looks nice, and I it has pretty music. I give it that. But and I think the part with Regina King going to Puerto Rico, that was the only part that I thought felt real to me and didn't feel like a play. And I don't know, I really disliked it. It was not for me. So there you go.
Okay, I see what you're saying. I mean, I think Barry Jenkins has a good way of taking these kind of non-cinematic stories and presenting them in a cinematic
And I
way.
loved Moonlight. I
Yeah. Okay.
absolutely loved Moonlight.
Yeah. So this, I mean, there's no question that this is not as good as Moonlight, but I do think it worked for the most part. I mean, I get the whole. It felt like a play. It kind of in that way. It kind of reminded me of Fences,
Mm-hmm.
which I did not care for Fences. I think this is much better than that. I don't know. It just felt like a very artistic take on a non-cinematic story.
At least with Fences, I felt like I got to know those characters and who they are by the end of it. I did not feel like I got to know really, aside from the fact that they were in love with each other, I didn't feel like I really got to know them. I don't know.
Well,
It was frustrating for
I
me.
felt like I got to know them. Maybe the lead girl, Tish. I probably didn't get to know her as well as the others, but I don't know. I thought it was a strong effort, and cinematography and score are definitely the highlights of this film.
Mhm.
Regina King's performance is up there as well. I think she's maybe getting a little more credit than she deserves compared to some of the other supporting actress performances I've seen. But
Mhm.
overall, I think it's a good film, and I was surprised this was not up for Best Picture at the Oscars.
Yeah, I was surprised but grateful. I, I didn't like.
That's fair. I mean, come on, this deserved it over Bohemian Rhapsody.
Oh, yeah. And I have it higher in my ranking than Bohemian
Okay.
Rhapsody and Vice. So I guess
Okay.
that's a fair point. But I have like a whole section of my ranking of sort of, I have right around the same spot. I have Widows, Support the Girls, Ballad of Buster Scruggs, If Bill Street Could Talk, and Sorry to Bother You were like my unpopular opinions of
Okay.
there's movies that didn't connect with me like they did with many others. So
That's fair.
yeah, I'm at 123.
Okay, I have it at 74.
Okay, good. All right. So then we have Roma. So this is Alfonso Cuarón's uh, movie about these women in Mexico, and particularly the maid named Cleo. And I really enjoyed this movie. I mean, I don't know, enjoyed is the right word, but I was very moved
Mhm.
by it. It is beautiful.
Mhm.
And I guess this is similar to If Feels She Could Talk, but this one is the one that I connected with, as far as sort of a day in the life kind of talking about these people in this time and place. And I particularly thought anything involved with her pregnancy was devastating and
Yes.
just, oh, that scene in the birthing room was
Yes.
devastating.
I mean, it made me cry.
Oh, I was crying, and I thought that it was very non-judgmental of its characters, and I did feel like I got to know the characters well, and I really thought it was a beautiful movie. It's my favorite of the Oscar Best Picture nominees.
Okay. Yeah, so I think this is the front runner to win Best Picture, and I think it very much deserves it.
Yeah,
I really love this film.
yeah.
Did you get to watch it in the theater, or did
I
you watch it?
didn't. I
Okay.
because the only place it was playing here was at the Tower Theater, which is kind of a pain to get to, and the screen really isn't that big. So I'm like,
Oh yeah.
like it's kind of a small. It's fun. It's nostalgic. It's a fun theater, but I don't know. It's just like, yeah, it's not gonna be that different. I'm just watching it at home.
Fair enough.
But anyway,
Yeah, I
you
did.
got
I
to
did
see
see
it.
this in the theater,
Oh,
and
nice.
I'm glad I did. Which actually, that same theater, they're bringing it back in a couple of weeks
Oh,
for
cool.
a special extra
Yeah,
screen.
it's a bummer. It's not part of the AMC or Cinemark
Oh, right,
Oscar,
right.
whatever they call it.
Mhm.
So
Yeah,
because of
s-
Netflix, I guess.
when I watched this, I didn't realize how personal the story was for the director. I didn't
Uh-huh.
realize it's about his childhood, his housemaid, and it just like knowing that now, it all kind of clicks. It's like a love letter to this person who was a second
Yeah,
mom to him,
yeah,
and like people like this can often be overlooked. Like that family, they could be wrapped up in themselves and not think
uh-huh.
about this life that she's having outside of being dedicated to them and raising them. And just the whole presentation was beautiful, and
Yeah,
cinematography was great.
uh-huh.
um yeah, I would be surprised at this point if this does not win Best Picture, and I think Best Director as well.
Yeah, I'll be very happy if it does win, because it is my favorite of the nominees.
Mhm.
This and then Stars Born is my second favorite,
Yeah.
um, and I have it at 11.
Okay. I have it at 28. Might be a little bit too low. I've actually been itching to watch this again.
It's
So
tough. Really, my top 30, maybe even more, are they're all so different, and I like them all for different reasons. So it was very tough making my top 15.
yeah.
But anyway, so
So
yeah,
this is my third favorite of the Best Picture nominees. The favorite is my favorite. The Star is Born is my second favorite.
yeah.
Just as far as like entertainment, this is not the most like entertaining of them.
Hmm.
So that's probably why I have it at third. But technicality, it's definitely the best.
Yeah. Yeah, very good. Yeah, I have yeah, then Green Book is my number 4, and then I
Hmm.
have Black Klansman, and then the favorite. Oh, and then Black Panther, and then the favorite.
Okay.
Anyway. All right. So then we are at, where are we? Okay. Then we're at the house that Jack built. So you saw this. This is a crazy director. I forget his name.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
Lars
I'm
von. I,
sure.
I don't remember his name,
Yeah,
but
I've never
I,
seen any of his movies, but
I haven't
yeah.
either. I know a lot of people talk about Nymphomaniac, which I never watched. Um, but this movie, I just kind of watched it on a whim. Not never have I hadn't seen a trailer. Didn't really know anything about it. Um, but man, I was glued to my television. I watched it at home. Wow, this was very very intense. It was very funny. It was very dark. It's very twisted. Would not recommend it to Rachel.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Um, wow, I was very compelled. Basically, it is about this serial killer. He's talking to an unknown figure, and he's basically going through the greatest hits of people he's killed. And they do it in a very entertaining way. There's lots of humor added in there. Um, I really like this, and I would love to watch it again. I have this ranked at number 16 for the year.
Oh, wow. I was expecting
Yeah.
that's very interesting. Okay. Cool. So you got to see Vox Lux. I heard that was very divisive film.
Yeah, and I can see why. I wanted to like this more than I did, and I do think it has a lot of good to it. Um, it didn't all come together. It didn't all work for me. It felt a little pretentious. I thought Natalie Portman did great. She was very strong in this. The singing in this movie, it's about this pop star who started out. She got notoriety after there was a school shooting, and she wrote a song and sang it at this memorial, and that's what propelled her into stardom. So she's dealing with a lot of, um, I guess, PTSD is the best way to describe it, even as an adult now. Um, but yeah, the singing in this movie is not strong.
Oh.
The dancing in it is not good at all, which kind of surprised me because Natalie Portman was very good in Black Swan. But her younger counterpart, who also plays her daughter, she plays her younger self and her daughter.
Hmm.
She's so awkward when she dances. Her singing is awful. So it could have been better if the daughter had been cast differently, I think, and if the songs were better. I don't know. I still enjoyed it enough to rank it at 88 for the year, but I wanted more.
Mm. Okay. Very good. All right. So then They Shall Not Grow Old. I really wanted to see this, but I haven't yet, but I really wanted to.
Yeah, so this is a documentary that Peter Jackson has done about World War One, which I guess it's he has a special interest in World War One. He had a grandfather who fought in it. He has a lot of like memorabilia from World War One that he personally owns. So he was asked to do this documentary with this footage that is over 100 years old now. So he took this and restored it, added color, added voices to it. It's really incredible what Peter Jackson managed to do with this. As far as a film, I wasn't I wasn't super entertained by it. It's
Uh-huh.
what they did. It's narrated completely by World War One veterans from old tapes that were recorded in like the 50s and 60s. Um, and I counted at the end during the credits 109 different veterans narrate this. So if that
Oh.
tells you anything, there's no sort of cohesive narrative. It's just one voice talks for 10 to 20 seconds, then you go immediately to a different voice. And that's the entire film is just these voices overlaid on this film. So there's no sort of narrative. Um, I
I'm amazed
respect,
that they had that much footage. I didn't even
yeah.
realize that, like, because you're talking, I think, World War One ended in
Mhm.
1918. I mean,
Yep.
I didn't even think they had like a lot of. I mean, that was just the early days of film. I
Uh-huh.
didn't even think they had, footage. I'm amazed.
Yeah, I mean, surprisingly, they have a little. He had a lot of footage. This was a 4-year project that he was working on, like going through all of this film. A lot of it was in very bad condition, so he was able. Like, he was able to restore it all. Probably my favorite part of this was after the credits, they had this special thing, at least in the showing I went to. I don't think they do this for every showing. But after the credits, they had like an additional 30 minutes that actually went in and showed how they restored all this footage. There's one interesting part where it shows kind of this commander talking to his his uh, his army, his what, I don't know the word for it, but
Uh,
they're all listening to him give a speech, and he's looking down and reading a paper, and they have like a voice saying what he's saying, and they discussed at the end how they had this footage and they had no idea what the guy was saying, so they actually had to do a lot of detective work, and they found like in the archives there was some sort of inspirational speech that was dated that same date as this footage. So Peter Jackson took it, he read it, and he tried to see if he could match up the audio to the video, and eventually they found that it did match up. So it was really cool that they actually got to take the actual speech and overlay the audio into this video footage. So
that's
the end,
crazy.
yeah, the ending where it shows kind of the behind the scenes, that was by far the best part of this. As a movie itself, it was a little boring.
Uh-huh.
Um,
Interesting. Yeah, I definitely want to see it eventually, but I can understand that.
mhm.
So then you saw there's a whole bunch here that you have only
Yeah,
seen.
I
So
sorry, I ranked that 185.
oh, okay. So then you saw Cold War. I've really been wanting to see this as well, but I just haven't been able to. I really would like
Mhm.
to.
Yeah, like I said, this is a very strong year for foreign films, and Cold War is one of the best I've seen as well. Beautiful film. It's interesting because the if you look at the best cinematography category at the Oscars this year, it's the majority of them are foreign films, with Roma, Cold War, and Never Look Away.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, this is such a beautiful film. This is another very personal film. This is the director. I forget his name. It's yeah, I don't remember his name. But this is basically about his parents' relationship, or maybe it was his grandparents. I think it was his
Uh,
parents. But you kind of have this director meets this young actress, uh, that he basically discovers her, and they have such a volatile relationship, and it follows them over a span of, I think, like 20 years, 15 to 20 years. um, so yeah, it's very beautiful, great score. I think it's worth watching. It can be kind of kind of hard to get behind these characters because they they're really awful to each other at times, especially the woman. Like, she really she goes through some pretty crazy mood swings. But very strong film. I rank this 84 for the year.
okay, cool. Then you saw Welcome to Marwin. I was going to, but then it had such bad reviews that I was just like, I'll wait and see it. So I haven't seen it. What do you think?
Yeah, this was a disappointment for me. You have Steve Carell, and um, he had been attacked. His character had been attacked by these Nazis. But most of the plot of the film is centered around these dolls and this plot that he's created in his head. And I wish they had gone a different direction, because I found it very hard to care about this this plot that he was creating for these dolls. And um, it just didn't feel like there were many stakes. I wanted to know more about the character himself, the conflicts he was having outside of the dolls he created. So yeah, this was pretty disappointing. I put it at 173 for the year, though.
Okay. And then Destroyer. That's one you saw.
Yes, I just saw that. I was looking forward to this. This is Nicole Kidman. It's kind of a revenge film. Watching it though, I was disappointed. It's very heavy. There's hardly any levity to it. Nicole Kidman's character is just like in such a dark place over something that happened to her 17 years prior. I believe either 17 or 19 years. And I don't feel like the darkness surrounding her character is really earned in a new way. Like she went through some trauma, but nothing that would make her into the shell of a person that she is nearly 20 years later. It had an interesting twist to it by the end, but I did feel like it was kind of anticlimactic and pretty disappointing as a whole. Strong acting, but I don't know. I just wish she had been more dynamic of a character. So I put this at 135 for the year.
Okay. And then On the Basis of Sex, what did you think of that?
Yeah, this one I wasn't sure what to expect. I had seen the RBG documentary, which I really enjoyed that. I didn't think this would like stand up to RBG and be on the same level, but to my surprise, it actually was. I I really got into the story, even though I basically watched the same story in this documentary. But I thought the acting was well done. The story was presented in a strong way. It was a very good biopic for Ruth Bader Ginsburg. I think anybody who watches this would feel like she's an inspiration, regardless of politics. I said the same thing about RBG. So yeah, I would recommend this. I put this at 67 for the year.
Cool. It looked so generic to me, but
It's
that's
better than it looks. Yeah.
okay. Good. Good. All right. Then Stan and Ollie, that just came out this week here in Utah,
Hmm.
so I haven't gotten to see it yet.
Yeah, this was pretty decent. It's not a super cinematic story. This isn't following Laurel and Hardy throughout their whole career. It's basically at the end of their career working together. Um, a lot of what this film relies on is the humor that Laurel and Hardy had throughout their career, but I don't feel like that humor stands up to um, what we expect from films today. So while the audience was cracking up at their shtick, I guess I just wasn't laughing. It wasn't funny to me.
Uh-huh.
The acting was well done. Um, that was definitely the strength was the acting. Um, but yeah, I didn't love it. I put it at 125.
Okay. Then we actually have a movie that I've seen called Modest Heroes. There's a studio called Studio Ponek that was founded after Studio Ghibli closed down. The two head animators, Miyazaki and
Mhm.
Takahata, both had retired, so they created this new studio, Studio Ponek. They had made a movie last year, 2017, called Mary and the Witch's Flower, which was pretty, but it was fine, but it wasn't great. Um, so they, I guess, were going to do another feature, but they just couldn't get the resources. So they decided to make this anthology, and the hope is to continue in making these anthology films, shorts. And you don't see a whole lot of animated short anthologies released into the theaters, particularly anime, very rare. And I guess originally they were planning on it having one more because it's barely 60 minutes, this thing. And they were going to have one from Takahata, who has but then passed away. So they ended up with just the three shorts. And I thought that they were fine, but very forgettable. And the second one was probably my favorite, which was all about this kid who has this terrible allergy to eggs and the stress, because it's supposed to be these like everyday heroes, and one's like a fantasy story about these crab people, and these kids that end up, anyway, I don't know. And then that fight off this big fish. And then the second one is about this mom. So it's sort of celebrating this mom, this hero. And it was, I mean, you don't see a lot of anime that are like contemporary in an urban setting like that. So it was kind of refreshing. And the ending, it kind of ended weird, I thought, but it was pretty decent. And then the last one was all about this invisible man, who it's kind of this, it's very allegorical that this man is like invisible, but he's not like really invisible, but he looks invisible for the movie. Anyway, and yeah, it was just they were very forgettable for me. So I did not give it a fresh score. I felt this was like the first moment when I really felt like I was on felt the true amount of my power on Rotten Tomatoes, because I gave it a rotten review, and it went, because it only had probably 6 reviews, and it went from 100% to 83% with my review.
Way to go.
I know. I'm a terrible supporter of animation. But I have it at number 25 in my 2019 rankings, because I have 31, including all the Sundance movies. So there you go. Okay. Then there is the movie The Pledge. What's that?
Yeah, well, it's called Pledge. It is basically a movie about these 3 college boys who are wanting to pledge for fraternity. So this takes place.
Like a horror movie?
Yeah, it is a horror movie. It's basically they are going through this hazing process that takes a very dark turn very quickly. Things get very intense. There's a big twist to it at the end, which I appreciated. Overall, it felt kind of low budget and amateur, but like a strong amateur effort, if that makes any sense. So it has pretty good reviews, but I put it at number 8 for the year so far, out of 12 films that I've seen this year.
Okay. Then we have Dragon Ball Super Broly. So I really enjoyed this. I thought the animation was really cool. I thought it did a good job of developing Broly as a character, kind of giving his backstory. I really liked the fact that Frieza was just like an old school like villain, with like a wicked laugh. And I feel like so many movies now, we got to have like this complicated backstory, and we have to be all sympathetic, like Thanos or whatever. And like they tried, I don't know, this was just refreshing to me. Like it felt like a Saturday morning cartoon with this like old school evil crackling villain. I thought it was fun, and it's not as good as some of the other like I really liked My Hero Academia, some of the other anime that we got in a similar style, but if you like the franchise, I think it was really solid.
Cool.
Yeah, so I have it at number 10.
Yeah, I've never seen anything Dragon Ball Z, so I know nothing about
it. Okay, good. So last one is Standoff at Sparrow Creek. What is that?
So this is a movie I didn't really know anything about. I like it when I can go to a movie theater and just blindly watch a movie without any sort of background, without having seen a trailer.
Mm-hmm. That's what's fun about Sundance, because you're just getting these all, like, some of them were just finished the week of the festival. Mm-hmm. It's kind of fun energy about it. But anyway.
Yeah. So I just saw this past week at the movie theater, and so basically this is about a militia group, kind of anti-police militia group, and this takes place over one night. They find out that there was a shooting at a police funeral near their hidden bunker where they keep all their weapons and stuff. So they get together, this militia, and they realize that one of their guns is missing. So they start pointing fingers at each other, being like, okay, so it was one of us who did this shooting at this police funeral. And it's basically a whodunit in a very creative way.
Huh.
trying to figure out who took this gun, who did this shooting. There's a lot of twists and turns along the way. It was actually really creative. Um, my biggest complaint is you don't really get to have any characters that you know enough about to really root for them. They're kind of a lot of them are unlikable, so it's really hard to have sort of an investment in anybody outside of the main character, I would say. But yeah, I thought it was a creative take on a whodunit, and yeah, I'd recommend it. I put this in number 4 for the year so far,
Okay,
out of
cool.
12.
Good. All right. So real quick, I'm going to do my super speedy round where I summarize my movies I saw at Sundance, and I'm going to do an order of my ranking. And if you want to learn more, you can listen to my podcast that I did on Sundance.
Good.
So,
I'm looking forward to this.
all right. You ready?
Yes.
Okay, here we go. 25. I have The Sunlit Night. Jenny Slate can't save this. It was very boring. It was poorly made. The ADR didn't match up with the voices. It was technically not very good, and the story wasn't very good either. 24. I have After the Wedding. It's a remake of a Danish film, but all the characters were insufferable and selfish, and I didn't like it. It's well made, well acted, but it was really irritating. Number 20. number 23 was the animation Spotlight. I really don't usually like the animation Spotlight. There were 2 that were decent. The rest were trying too hard to be edgy and were just kind of irritating and not my favorite. Number 22, I have the Little Zombies, and this is We Are Little Zombies. This is a art piece film to the extreme. It uses strobe lights and lots of glaring images, and it's not actually a zombie movie. It's about kids that are forming this band when they're orphaned. It wasn't for me. I can understand why other people like it. It's just not my taste in art. Number 21 is Halston. It's a documentary about the designer Halston, but it had this really weird narration that set it up like a murder mystery, but it actually wasn't. It was just very weird, the choices they made, which was a shame because they had good interviews. Number 20, I have The Exceedingly Wicked, Extremely Wicked, Shockingly Evil, and Vile. They took an interesting approach, but in my opinion, it needed to be messier. They did not show the Ted Bundy as being a bad guy really at all. And like you were kind of, I was sitting there thinking, am I supposed to be rooting for this guy? Which was very weird. It has some good performances, but I just didn't like the tone and where they went with it. Number 19, have you seen The Last Black Man in San Francisco? This is similar to Sorry to Bother You. A lot of people will really like it and appreciate the artistic risk, but I found it very exhausting and shouty, and it just wasn't my taste in art. But other people will like it. Number 18, I have Photograph, which was set up as a very conventional romantic comedy about this girl who this guy who meets this girl who's out of his league, but he asks her to pretend to be his girlfriend for his grandma. But then they end it on a really unsatisfying note, and they don't give you the closure that I needed, so it was frustrating. So there you go. Number 17, big popular at the festival, but I didn't really enjoy it as much as other people, was Brittany Runs a Marathon. I thought I would really like it because I am a plus size athlete in my day, and so I know what it's like. But she actually was just really rude and mean and unlikable, and I didn't want to root for her. So I didn't like it as much as other people. I didn't like it really hardly at all. Number 16, I have Abe, which is about this kid who is Muslim and Jewish, both sides. I thought that he was good, as Noah Schnapp from Stranger Things is in it. He was good, but I thought that all the adults were the worst, and I hated them, so it took down the movie. 15 is Velvet Buzzsaw, which we'll talk about in our wrap up for the next thing. I thought that it had some fun horror set pieces, like sort of melted paintings, certain things I thought were fun. I thought it had some funny moments as far as making fun of these pedantic art people, but it wasn't as clever or as creepy as I thought it was, but it was just barely fresh for me. Number 14, I have Moonlight Sonata, The Deafness in Three Movements. This is a documentary where this woman, she profiles her son who is deaf, and her parents, and they all get the cochlear implants that make them to be able to hear, and the experience. And it was a little dry, but it had a lot of sweet moments, so it was pretty good. 15, Paddleton. This is a cute story sad story about friendship, platonic friendship between Mark Duplass and Ray Romano, as the Mark Duplass character is dealing with cancer. It was very sweet and touching and actually quite funny. 12 is Troop Zero. This is in the spirit of Napoleon Dynamite and those kind of indie, very quirky type of comedies. A lot of people will get irritated by it, but I thought it was cute enough. The kids were really cute. It's about these kids trying to get badges so they can get enter this contest to record on a record that will go up into the moon for aliens to listen to. Anyway, it was cute enough. It has a good cast. Viola Davis is good in it, and Allison Janney, good. Jim Gaffigan. So I enjoyed it. 11 is Love Antosha, which is a documentary about Anton Yelchin, and he was pretty amazing how many movies and how many other things that he did in his short life. I didn't know that he had cystic fibrosis, and it was really tragic to see his parents and how they've had to deal with this loss of their only child. It was pretty sad. Number 10 is Words from a Bear. This is a documentary about Scott Momaday, who is her first Native American to win the Pulitzer Prize. He's a really cool guy, and he has like an amazing voice. He could have a career as a voice actor, and I think that James Earl Jones should play him in a movie. Number 9 was The Farewell. This stars Awkwafina as this woman whose grandmother is going to pass away, but in Chinese culture they don't tell her that, and so they all go. Her cousin gets married as an excuse for them to all see their grandma. And as someone who loves my grandma very much, it really worked for me. It was really good, emotionally true. I liked it. It's a little pacing isn't perfect, but I have it a 9. Number 8 is Sweetheart. This is a really fun monster movie about this girl who gets stranded on a deserted island, but there's this creature that's out to get her, and it was really pretty fun little monster movie. Number 7 is The Witch Hunters. This is a Serbian film about this kid with cerebral palsy. He becomes friends with this girl, and whose family is getting separated, and they become convinced that her dad's new girlfriend is a witch, and because she has brews her own kombucha and does yoga and stuff. And it was really charming, really sweet, really heartfelt. I really enjoyed it. Number 6 is The Mustang. This is a movie about this man played by Matthias Schoenhardt, who is serving at this prison where they have this program to tame these wild Mustangs and then sell them at auction. And he is this very angry man. You start to sort of learn more about his backstory, and he bonds with this wild Mustang through the course. And it was really good. It was a lot better than I expected. Number 5 is The Elephant Queen, which is an amazing nature documentary where it's obviously about these elephants, but it's also about many other creatures, and it's really cute and amazing cinematography, and I really enjoyed it. Number 4 is Late Night. This is a big talked about of the festival. Emma Thompson plays this woman who's been on late night television for many years, and Mindy Kaling, who wrote and directed it, plays this woman who is hired kind of as a diversity hire. And it was funny, it was sweet, it had a little bit of romance, it had something to say, but it didn't beat you over the head with it. Really charming. I think people will really like it. It was really good. Number 3 is The Report with Adam Driver. This movie was very stressful to watch, but I really appreciated the fact that it pulled no punches, and it was very critical of the Bush administration and the Obama administration almost equally about how they handled this report about enhanced interrogations. And Dan Jones is the lead character, played by Adam Driver, and he was amazing. There was kind of a Mr. Smith Goes to Washington moments at times. It was really good. Then number 2 is Maiden. I love underdog sports documentaries. We know that from the past, and this was so good. It was about the first all-women sailing crew that did the race around the world, and it was very well done with vintage footage, but also new interviews, and you were just rooting for this team, and it was very inspirational. I really enjoyed it. My number one favorite, the one to look forward to coming up, is Blinded by the Light. This is directed by Gurinder Chadha, who directed Bend It Like Beckham. And this is, a lot of people have said, oh, this is the next Sing Street. And this is actually, I think, the next Sing Street. It it is about this kid in 1987 who is this Pakistani kid, and he doesn't get along with his dad, and he who's very traditional, and he ends up finding the music of Bruce Springsteen. And I'm not even that big of a Springsteen fan, but this movie was joyful. It was exuberant. It made me happy. It was so fun, and I just really loved it. And there you go. That's it.
Nice.
How did I
Sounds
do?
like some interesting ones in there.
Seeing as they get released, what people think of them, and we'll have a lot of fun talking about them eventually.
For sure.
Yeah. So anyway, there you go. We've talked about it all. So let us know what you think of these various films. If you got to see any of them, what your ranking would be, I guess. And so the favorite was your top one of the ones we talked about, correct?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
Yep. And I really like the house that Jack built as well.
Yeah, interesting. Okay. Yeah, Shoplifters would be my favorite of all the ones that we talked about in this episode. And then Anna and the Apocalypse and Roma would be my favorites.
Mm-hmm.
So very good. All right. Well, great. So how can people find you?
You can find me on Twitter, the David Healy. And you can find us both on Facebook at Film Freaks. It's facebook.com/Film Freaks Group.
Great. And you can find me at Rachel's Reviews, all over social media, and on iTunes and on YouTube. So if you're listening on iTunes, please give us a rating and review. If you're listening on YouTube, please give us a thumbs up and a subscribe. We really appreciate it. And thanks so much. And we'll talk again soon.
Bye.
Bye.